Well, I think to me, a community means everyone helping each other, supporting each other. And if there's anyone that needs help, to put yourself forward to help them.
The community, it seems to be, it gives people like the Shawl that kind of comfort, something to connect to and a little sense of belonging.
It means sharing support, friendship, relationship.
The community of women being together, creating stuff, but also changing things as well for the better.
I'd been following the Red Dress Embroidery Project for a long time online, and when I was centre manager at Blether Art Centre, I thought the beautiful barn up there would be perfect for an exhibition of the dress. Didn't think it would happen, but she said yes, so we had it up there for a fortnight. And once I'd seen that and the amazing effect it had on me and other people, I really wanted to respond to it with something myself, but not a personal project, a community project, because I do a lot of community work. So the Welsh shawl, it's less used now, but women used to wear it to keep warm. They used to wear it to wrap their babies in, or if their child was cold or somebody was upset, they wipe their tears. So it's just got all this beautiful symbology of kind of comforting and family and warmth. And I thought that's what communities need more of. So if we kind of base it around the shawl, then it's got that little kind of hook that we can sort of connect with, yeah.
And when all the squares were completed, they thought the best idea would be to get Welsh wool to sew all these squares. And at the time I had in my attic, I had my mother's memory box, which contained her hairbrush, some letters, her special gloves and shoes, and her nurse's cape. And it suddenly dawned on me, then instead of allowing it to rot in the attic, maybe not know what happened to it when my time had come, I gave it to Emma to sew the cape, because my mother, who was a nurse, would have been absolutely thrilled at the thought that all these patients had knitted, people had knitted all these squares, and the life of the cape would go on and on and on, giving pleasure.
Once we had all the brilliant donations for the shawl, we then had to sew them onto some material, so it would become the community shawl. And I was chatting to my mum one day, and I said, we're looking for some really nice, perhaps some flannel or some wool. And she just looked at me for a minute, and I thought, what's she going to say? And she went, how about your grandmother's nursing, the cape she wore when she was a nurse? I think she retired in 78. So it's been in my mother's attic in a suitcase really since my granny died. And it was just a perfect sort of offer. So we had a little moment. It was quite emotional. And it really gave the shawl like a deeper connection with my family anyway, but also a really strong foundation, something solid, another story that could be built into everyone else's stories. Yeah.
She must have worn her nurse's cape each day with such intent to tend and care and mend, nurture the lives of her community. Marjorie Lynch, sister at Pennyvale Hospital, wrapped in its warm Welsh wool. Black on the outside, red within, most colourful of the palette to medieval painters, believing red contained all the other hues, from sunrise, its cock-a-doodle-doo red, to red dissolving into dusk. Years on, the red inside is outed, brimming with life, power, heart, an element in every fabric square sewn on, fertile with new stories, felted, crocheted, knitted, stitched, woven. Marjorie's cloak, now community shawl. recalling the glorious red dress. A unique and meaningful motif from each maker in one embrace.
I went along to see the red dress. I suppose because I was kind of interested in the textile element of it, and I thought it might be quite a nice little outing for me and a couple of friends. And I found it very inspiring. I found the story of the red dress and the women from all over the world who had made it really inspiring. And I remember sitting afterwards with my friends saying, I wish there was something we could do that would kind of link us into this project. So when Emma's thing came out about the community shawl, I just thought, God, she's read my mind, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. I felt that I wanted to be part of this, almost like a movement of, I know the red dress is not all women, but it's nearly all women coming together with textiles, women's art, and making a statement about something.
I think this has been all about that community support, really, and how important that is in an age when we're perhaps people are more isolated. People use their mobile phones to communicate with people, and then that actual coming together as a community and helping each other and supporting each other, I think, is really important.
In the context of the community shawl, I think that, Emma has created a community. There's the community of women who contributed towards the shawl. And that's quite evident when you go to events that the community shawl's at, because people will come up and they'll start sharing their stories. And I suppose fundamentally, to me, the shawl is about stories. Every single one of those things that are on that shawl has got a story.
The sheer beauty, and as Kathy Taylor, who put everything together, said, all the tiny works of art, and just what people are capable of, and the thought and the care that's gone into each one. And D.H. Lawrence wrote a little poem about the importance of things made by hand, that there was a life that came through that you could feel, a vibrancy, a sort of presence and aura, and that's what I think people will feel.
I think it's interesting that there's that continuity of people's people talk with the stories about the pieces that they've made about their mothers and their grandmothers, or in my case, it's my mother-in-law. And everybody's come together, and there's that wonderful sense of continuity and joyfulness about the different pieces that people have made.
A home to thrive in, windows open to the world, a teapot, tale as old as time, trees, scattered flowers, an apple with leaves, wit and wisdom to live on. What if the hokey cokey was really what it was about? Women, life, freedom. Be at ease with yourself. Flowers come in stony places. Deeds, not words. Woolly rainbow boobs on each shoulder. Eloquent stitches, textures to dream into as a young child senses in the moment, feelings kindled, living into layers of riches. In a hedgerow, blackberry beads shiny, enticing, melancholy moon, filigree of lace, the hummingbird ever exquisite. A poppy for sorrow, a robin with presence in a garden once felt to embody the spirit of somebody who has died.
What had been happening in Iran at the time was really upsetting and very worrying. Mahsa Amini had been killed in police custody, and her crime was not wearing her veil properly adjusted. and that shocked me, and I thought that was so awful. And there were uprisings after that. There were riots, and they were so violently repressed by the Iranian authorities. And for a moment, I'm sure lots of people thought that was really going to be the moment where women in Iran got their freedom. And of course it wasn't. It didn't work out like that. The rebellion was so cruelly suppressed, and women there still have to put up with that terrible restriction of freedom. So I thought it was a way of showing that we felt that in as far away as Wales. So I completely cheated on my design, and I used 2 ready-made little imprints from Melyn Trigwynt blankets, and cut out 2 little Welsh ladies and put them either side of the embroidery, which obviously I chose green, red and white because that's the colours they were using for the slogan in Iran and the Welsh flag. So that's why I ended up with this design.
I was very inspired, obviously, as we all were, by the red dress. That idea of the dress itself, you know, the actual garment. So I put a kind of a quite an abstract shape of a dress onto a square. I did a little kind of a plié collage of different fabrics. And I'd just actually come back from a trip to Istanbul, and remembering like the whirling dervishes. I don't know if this will make sense until you see the square, but remembering that it had a little bit of a feel of that, so it felt like it was of that time.
Well, I originally made that piece for my mother-in-law as a sampler. She was very interested in all craft work, and she used to like knitting herself and things like that. And I started making bobbin lace when I was a student. And so I gave her this piece. It was around the time of her golden wedding anniversary. And so I threaded a piece of gold thread through it as I was making it. And she always kept it in a box in her cupboard on display. And she was amazing. My mother-in-law passed away at 96 just a few years ago. And when she passed away, it was given back to me. And I just had it in my cupboard. And when I heard that Emma was doing the lovely red shawl and what size pieces she wanted, I looked at this piece and realised that it was exactly the right size. And I thought that my mother-in-law would have loved the idea of everybody contributing to this.
My mother's mother, she was a great friend of Aneurin Bevan's, and they did a lot of work throughout the valleys, encouraging young girls to be educated until they were 14. And she thought that all girls should have freedom, be educated, which would give them freedom. So that's what's on the square.
And I had what another artist had called her scraps. She works with antique quilts and all that sort of lovely cotton material. And I bought a little envelope of these. So I used I sort of embroidered that on top. And then I wanted to represent myself, my daughters, my mum, my nan, whose cape it is, and my great grandmother. So I've sewn on little red beads which represent all of us. And there's more than 7, but it's because we're in big groups together, because I never met my great grandmother, but I would have loved to. And then there's some beads on their own. So it represents different stages in our lives where we've stood alone, or we've stood in small groups, or we've all stood together. So it's like a little journey of all the females in my family.
This is the one that I made. I saw the red dress, which was stunning. And I wanted to include that in my square and show how this was a response and an inspiration from that. But I also wanted to say a bit about Abergavenny, a very lovely place, I think, with a warm heart, like the shawl seems to encapsulate, and a sense of community and friendliness. That's what I've experienced. So, but also a giving nature. The world's red dress in our fair trade town, our town of sanctuary. This shawl from Abergavenny embraces the world too.
The square I contributed was that one. And I did that because as you can probably tell from the accent, I don't come from Wales. And one of the things that I really loved when I arrived in Wales was Welsh quilts and Welsh quilting, and that kind of plain cloth quilting that comes from the 19th century. So what I wanted to do, because I wanted to do something that was, I suppose, to me, quintessentially Welsh, I thought I'll make a square of a Welsh quilt. The rule was it had to have some red in it. So we had red, black and blue. I don't think I did a very good job of doing it, but I was very happy to do it.
And I've noticed through my workshops that when you get a group of people together, lots of fantastic things happen. And quite often that would lead to other projects, or just somebody feeling more confident, or someone having a conversation perhaps they thought they wouldn't have before. And the community, it seems to be, it gives people like the shawl that kind of comfort, something to connect to, and a little sense of belonging. And that's really important in my work as well, that people get to feel that. Yes.
There's something that I've realised through all the events we've done in the shop, and from working with the community, that there's something about people making with their hands, and I'm fascinated by that, to see what people can do and can make with their own hands, and the community side of that, for people to come together while they're crafting. It just feels like such a natural thing over the millennia, really. People to come together, to be crafting together, and what I've seen, and it seems to be the same everywhere, is that all sorts of great conversations happen while that making is going on. And I just find that fascinating, that people can be in this little creative space but be talking about all sorts of other things, and feeling that purpose all together, or feeling that community all together. Just feels like safe space is definitely something that seems to come from those get-togethers.
To always be themselves. Don't let anybody else smash your dreams.
Be led by compassion, most of all, and love, obviously. Love of nature and love of each other, but also look and think and feel deeply into things, and find the spirit of things.
Believe that you can do it, I think. I think so many women are encouraged to think they can't do things, or to think they're not good enough to do things, suffer really badly from imposter syndrome. Whereas I think just believe you can do it, and it's okay to fail, because you just need to pick yourself back up and do it again. And I think that's stood me in good stead.
I think it probably would be something about intuition, probably something about being able to trust kind of like the voice, your intuition, your inner feelings, your instincts, of not losing sight of that, knowing what to listen to, knowing what to let go of. These all feel like quite important things, I suppose, for getting through human existence.
I think this has been all about that community support, really, and how important that is in an age when we're perhaps people are more isolated. People use their mobile phones to communicate with people. And then that actual coming together as a community and helping each other and supporting each other, I think is really important.
I think maybe trust your instincts, because the number of times I've thought I would do something and perhaps been talked out of it. And actually, I sometimes think, okay, it's a bit of a cliche female instinct, but feminine instinct, but I actually think if you listen to yourself, mostly your instincts are, they are founded on rational thought. And I think perhaps that's what I would have done more often in life, is thought, if I thought that was a good idea, it probably was a good idea. So I should have done it.
So I would say to people, take that brave step, because every time I've done it, I've met brilliant people, or I've been offered an excellent project, or just had a really nice time with a group of people. So it's really important, I think, to take at least one brave step if you can. Yeah.
Crafters stitching at the Woolcroft, packets arriving by hand and by post, 120 small treasures in all, to pore over, savour, united by a seamstress honouring the cape's shape, its buttons, hem and seams left showing. Now Emma Bevan, Marjorie her nana, will share the shawl with others, draw out new threads, reminiscence, spin a whirling dervish of ripples and surprises. This garment of time and place connects us, matters. One stitch, one square builds a community. All you need is love. Da, 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 da.